to Greenable Woodbridge. I am your host, Carolyn Ehrlich. Today's guest is Steve Kessel, a chief engineer with Brown & Caldwell, which is a national engineering firm. Under Steve's direction, Brown & Caldwell has taken the leading role in transforming the township's most contaminated site into the township's most productive site. And that site is the former Newadeck site, which you've heard me talk about a lot because I'm so excited about what's going on there. It's right on the Raritan River, and with his leadership, it's actually going to become the Woodbridge Waterfront Park and the Woodbridge Energy Center. So, Steve, let's start off by you telling us a little bit about your firm and your role with that firm.
Sure. Thanks for that great introduction. That was quite complimentary. Brown & Caldwell is a 100% environmental engineering and consulting firm. We're founded in 1947. We really specialize in cleaning up old brownfields industrial sites as well as doing a lot of municipal type engineering. We've been involved with this project since 2008. I am the chief engineer for the project, as well as being the licensed site remediation professional, also known as the LSRP, which puts me in a role that is responsible to make sure we are complying with the regulations and cleaning things up to a level that is both protective and supportive of whatever the future use is going to be for the property.
Great. And what's a little bit of history of this site?
The site is has a long, complex history. It's very interesting. The site was originally used as a clay mine and clay pits.
Which is
back in
the core of Woodbridge.
Yeah, the whole, if you go back and look at the really old aerial photographs, that whole area was all just used for mining for clay, to build bricks. I guess it was shipped up to, I think, Jersey City and Hoboken and that area. So the history there is interesting. In the early 1900s, the site was used for industrial uses. It was converted for chemical manufacturing. It went through a lot of different hands through the years and used to manufacture a variety of chemicals, primarily pesticides and different solvents, which is kind of classic New Jersey chemical manufacturing through the Industrial Revolution. So the history of the site is very interesting. In the 1980s, the operations more or less ceased, and some investigation of the site and looking at redevelopment started at that time. It's a very complicated site because of the size of it. It's about 185 acres. About 2/3 of that are wetlands. About 1/3 of it was used for a variety of different operations, primarily chemical manufacturing. In the 80s, there were a number of site investigations that were started. Through 2008, there were several attempts to investigate and redevelop the project. All those efforts stalled and eventually failed for a number of reasons. One is because of the complexity of the site, financial and market reasons, and other reasons. So in 2008, the owner of the property went out through competitive process to identify ways to finally get the site cleaned up, investigated, cleaned up, remediated, and redeveloped. And that's when Brown & Caldwell was first introduced to the site.
It is just incredible that site has been kind of dormant since the 1980s. It's just mind-boggling that, the company that nobody could get it moving, and then actually Brown & Caldwell, under your leadership, came in and started to get everything into motion. So tell me a little bit about how Brown & Caldwell and you were able to do that, what you did.
Well, I appreciate that. It was not just my leadership. There was a lot of people involved. It took the commitment from a lot of stakeholders. The property owner, the Brown & Caldwell was a technical lead. Obviously, the town and the BDA were critical partners in helping us get this through the process. But what we did in 2008, the previous efforts at the site were very focused on if there were operations here on the site or operations there on the site. Well, let's go investigate that. We'll clean it up. Or we'll investigate this and clean it up. And just the reality is that the site use was so complicated through so many years. Really the entirety of the industrial portion of the site was contaminated. So we came in with the proposal that addressed that whole part of the site holistically and balanced the cleanup of that part of the property and the redevelopment of that part of the property with a commitment to dedicate a large portion of the property, about 2/3 of the property, to a wetlands mitigation, redevelopment. There's going to be public access, a public park. So in the process of doing that, it had the benefit of redevelopment, which had the financial part of it. It had the public interest in doing the wetlands mitigation, the environmental interests that are outside of property.
The mayor's support.
The mayor's support was critical.
Right.
The town was on board. The outside stakeholders through Edison Wetlands and other groups were very committed to helping us get this process through, which is really what led to the success of the project and what's got us to where we are today.
Right, and it was really very balanced redevelopment, which was something we were talking about.
It was balanced, and there was a lot of competing interests pushing things in a lot of different directions, and that was really the challenge in 2008, 2009, 2010, when the remedial program was really being developed and all the permitting was being done. There was lots of face time spent between all the parties, a lot of negotiations, lots of permitting, and I think at the end everybody came away satisfied, and it's been a great win. It's been a good win for us. Obviously, it's a good win for the town, and we've got a lot to look forward to in the next couple of years as things get completed. The town should see a lot of progress. You can see a lot of progress now. You drive past the site. There's clearly been a lot of work being done, but there's some really important milestones coming up over the next year to year and a half, 2 years, something like that. The public park will be opening. The power plant that's redeveloped is a huge win for the site, huge win for the state, really. And they're going to start generating power within the year, so it's an exciting time for sure.
It really, really is. And I just want to go back a minute because you mentioned the permitting process, and I don't even know if you can answer this off the top of your head, but I don't think people realize what permitting and how much of local, state, and federal government is involved. Like, how many agencies did you have to go to? Approximately how many permits did you need? I mean, I know you can't offer that on the top of your head, but I mean, it's just a phenomenal amount of paperwork that you had to do. It's, if somebody were to ask for all of your permits, it would probably be like a filing cabinet.
It would be more than a filing cabinet.
It would be more than a filing cabinet.
It would be more than a filing cabinet. I mean, it involves, every agency really had their hands in it, both at the town level, at the county level, at the state level, at the federal level. We have Army Corps permits because of our proximity to the river, primarily. There's tidelands, the state, the land use program, which really drives all of the wetlands and the wildlife permitting, and that's probably the biggest.
Right.
But at the same time, we had to get approvals through the site remediation program, through the DEP, and another complicating factor of this project is we started in 2010, which was kind of the old DEP. So
they changed the rules.
They changed the rules, and it which added some complexity to it, but also was favorable in a lot of ways. And I can't say enough to how being within the BDA and having the access to the DEP has really helped that process, because we went from being under conventional oversight with the DEP to being in the LSRP program, which really shifted a lot of that responsibility from the DEP onto me as the LSRP. But at the same time, we still had the BDA, and we have access to Tony Finley and the folks at the state, which has really been it's really been helpful going through the process.
Great.
But it has been a lot of work, and there's a team of, it's not just Brown and Caldwell. There are a team of other consultants and other parties. It's been a long, arduous process, and it's not quite over. But we're still there's still a lot of work to do. But it's the visibility of the site and the project is really, all this work is going to start paying off from a public perspective.
So I think anybody who drives by or even goes over the bridge can see the power plant going up. You still can't actually see all the work, though, that you've been doing in the wetlands. So talk about that a little bit.
Sure. You're right. You can see as you drive past the site and going over the bridge, you can look over, you can see the cranes. It's a huge infrastructure project. I've had a number of people tell me that they've straightened the flight path to Newark Airport. Right. They'll fly right over the site, which is pretty neat. But beyond that, the power plant is about 28 acres of the property. You go just south of that is really where the wetlands work is being done, and that's probably on the order of almost 100 acres all in, wetlands and uplands, an area that's going to be green space eventually. And there's been, tens of thousands of cubic yards of material that's been moved. The area has been dewatered. Clean fill has been brought in. There's been I'm not even sure what the numbers, but over 1 million plants have been put in wetland species. So that's been done, and it's just you're really starting to see it now. You can look at the aerial photographs. We've got some aerial photographs that are going to show where the site was in 1957 and how it was kind of in its industrial heyday, if you will. And then if you look at the site today, we've got a nice, new, efficient industrial facility and the power plant that's being built. And then you've got 100 acres that are going to be open water and wetlands and enhanced uplands. There are going to be species. There's going to be bird watches. It's really going to be it's a dramatic transformation. Which once the construction work is done and the site is open for public access.
Talk about that public access. We got about 1 minute left. So
sure.
Let's get on
the public access is going to be exciting. It's about 70 acres. There's a park that's being built right now. The grand opening should be sometime within the next year or so, probably next spring, once the power plant is done with their work. But there's going to be trails, nature trails. There's going to be bird blinds and watches. We'll have a grand opening. It's going to be great. We've already had ospreys, and even with the work going on, we've already seen some new species coming in between the different waterfowl and birds and migratory species. It's really been for somebody like myself, a civil engineer who's not a birds and bunny person.
Right.
It's still
suddenly become that's what happens to me. I go down, and all of a sudden, they start telling me, well, we saw this. Look, gave me binoculars, which I never used before, and said, look, you can see over there.
There's an osprey nesting out there, and I'm looking forward to having my kids come out.
Right.
They always ask me what I'm doing, and it's going to be a public park, and I can guarantee the opening day my kids will be here.
Right.
And it'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be
hopefully they keep coming back more often.
And they will. It's going to be a great resource for the town and the public. So
it has been one of the greatest efforts, and I so appreciate your coming on the show today. And I have a feeling that we're going to be seeing a lot more of you in Brown and Caldwell as this project goes into the future.
We certainly hope to, and there's a lot of work to be done in the future, so we're going to stay here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and have this conversation.
Thank you, Steve Kessel, for being our guest today. And thank you for watching Greenable Woodbridge and being part of the excitement and part of the change. We'll see you next time.